Hello everyone and welcome to the final part of this series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the final integration inside of Unreal, and it's going to be a brief one. It's really not my strong point, to be honest. Some of the other instructors here in the next two team have way more experience with Unreal Engine than I do. I'm a little bit more into the earlier stages of the production pipeline, but still I'm going to show you some cool things that we can do here, and we're going to use a lot of like pre-assets or pre-done assets and stuff like that, but just a general understanding of how this could be implemented into a game. So before we do that, though, just to remind you that we are still on the special Christmas days with the 90% off discount code that you can find down here for Udemy. We also have the Skillshare promotion where you can sign up to Skillshare and get some free days as well. So make sure to go down here and check the links before or after you watch this video. So we have the character here. We're going to right click and we're going to create a blueprint class. This is going to be an actor. I'm going to call this BP underscore. Oh my God, what was that? I got a message in the middle of sneezing and it threw me off. So BP underscore fogling. Give me 1 second. So inside of this, the way Unreal works is through these things called blueprints, which are like a group where you can have a lot of different things. And one of the things that we can have is an skeletal mesh. So I can say skeletal mesh and bring this skeletal mesh, which is going to be our fogling. So wherever I place this actor, there's going to be a fogling, but we need to, of course, tell it that this skeletal mesh is going to be our little character. So we're going to drag and drop the fogling rig ready down here. There we go. We hit compile, and there we go. So now if we drag and drop this BP fogling anywhere in the world, we're going to have some of these guys. We can have as many as we want, or as many as the computer can hold, and we can have it like this. There we go. Now, the only problem is if I hit play, yes, they're going to look really nice, but they're just standing there. They're not doing anything. So we need to tell them that we want them to be animated. And there's different ways to do it. I'm going to keep it really, really simple. What I want to do is set this thing on the fogling options, where it says animation mode. You can see that we can use different options. We're going to be using animation blueprint, which means that we're here. Well, doesn't really mean, but we're just going to do it like manually, hard code this. When the event starts, I'm going to tell the fogling to play an animation. Play animation. There we go. So when the game starts, the fogling is going to start playing an animation. What animation? The fogling idle animation, of course. So, well, this thing just got stuck. It's not the animation sequence, though. Oh, it's the fogling idle animation sequence. There we go. And we're going to loop it, and we're going to hit compile. So what this will do is, once we start playing, all of the foglings in my level, all of them, should start with their animation. As you can see right there, how they're all moving and just waiting to do something. If we had a walk cycle, we could program them to move around. We can program them to follow our character. But right now, I'm just going to keep them like that. Then I'm going to go to the fogling options, and I'm going to add a collision box. Collision box. And this collision box is going to be like the range that this thing is going to detect. So I'm going to make this thing a little bit bigger. And if anything gets into this area, the fogling is going to react. Now, what things do we want to trigger this thing? Only the characters. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add event on component begin overlap, which means when something overlaps that box, something else is going to happen. These red boxes, they're like the execution boxes. So these are the things that activate the whole code. In this case, the first one, the event begin play that we use, when the game starts, all of the boxes that are event begin play will run the code, which in this case is play animation. In our case, on component begin overlap, what we're going to do is we're going to do something called a cast. We're going to cast to third-person character. What this does, it just ensures that it's only the character, the one that will trigger this sort of action. If a coin, if a particle, if a ray, or like if a bullet or something goes near the object, it won't trigger. Only when the character is near this guy will it trigger. So we use this cast to BP third-person character. And what do we want to do? Well, if the cast is successful, we want the fogling to play another animation. What animation are we going to play? We're going to play the fogling attack animation. Okay? That should work. Now, we don't want to loop. We just want to do it once. But first, we need to make sure that it works. So let's see if it works. Whenever you're building code, it's usually a good idea to start like little by little. So as you can see right now, they're like standing still. And if I go there, we go. They play the animation. And then they go back to idle, which is not what we want. So what we want here is we want them to play the animation, and then we're going to delay X amount of time. If I remember correctly, the animation was 80 frames, I think. So that's in seconds, that's 24 frames per second. That should be like 2.5 seconds. Or if you want to be super precise, you can go to the fogling attack, and on the options there, it's going to be one thing that says the time. 3.29 seconds. There we go. So we're going to wait 3.29 seconds. And after this is completed, we're going to play another animation. By the way, this is a super hacky way to do it. It's not the way I would normally do it for production, but since not a lot of people are used to Unreal, I just want to show you a super simple way that anyone can follow. Normally, we would need to do animation blend shapes and animation like things in programming to make sure that it flows and like bridges from one to another, but this one should work just fine. So this is going to be fogling idle, and we're going to loop, okay? So what's going to happen is when you collide with this guy, if the third person is the one that collides, it will start its animation, it will delay it after it finishes the attack animation, and then it will go back to an idling of the basic animation. And then if you do it again, it should do it again. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to hit play. Right now, these little guys are just minding their own business. No one's doing anything. And then if we go there, rawr, they animate, they move around, and then they go to the idle. You can see there's a little bit of a weird effect right there. But if we go back again, they do it again. Okay. Now there's going to be a bug where I can go in and out and in and out, and I can pretty much reset the animation. If there's enough time, I'll show you how to solve that. But for now, I just want to move on to the particle parts. Okay. So there we go. When we get closer to it, he does that and he starts spraying everything with an animation, which is not bad, right? I don't think that looks bad. I think that looks actually quite nice. So the way this is going to do, or the way we're going to do the particles, is we need to incorporate a particle system inside of this blueprint. So if I go here and I add a particle system like this, I can position this particle system where I want, which in this case could be that little like horn right there. And there's a couple of preset particle systems. I'm going to be using the smoke one, which is this one right here. Or we can use these. I think the steam might look a little bit better. Let's try the steam. There we go. Yeah, that looks a little bit way better. So we just get it right there. Cool. Now, the problem is if the little character is moving around, then this particle system is also going to be it's not going to move around, and it's going to look a little bit weird. And I do want this thing to move around with the character. We can scale this, by the way. So if I scale this to like 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5, the particle system is going to look smaller, which I think looks a little bit better. And what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to go all the way back to the rig. Or can we? Yeah, I'm going to go all the way back to the rig. To the fogling rig ready. And if we go to the skeleton right here, we can look for the joint that's on the top of the little bend, which is going to be fog bend A top. That's one right here. And what I can do is on this side, I can add something called a socket. So I can right click and add a socket. I'm going to call this, it's going to be called fog L bent A top socket. That's fine. We'll just copy this name. We'll go back to the fogling BP. And on the particle system, we're going to parent that. You can see the parent socket. We can just, we should be able to define where we want this to be. For some reason, it's not letting me attach it. Okay, let's parent it to the fogling. There we go. Compile. That's really weird. Oh, there we go. So now I have access to all of this, and I have this, the top socket. So there we go. So as you can see, the top socket is there. Now we just move it into position. We should be able to zero this out. There we go. It's going to be exactly on the socket. And that's it. So now, if I were to play this, first of all, you can see all of them are exporting that thing. And if I play the animation, you can see that the whole gas moves with the whole animation. It's not moving in the best way, but it's fun, right? It looks like a fun thing right now. What we can do now is we can add more of those. So I'm going to go to the fogling again. Well, let's go to the rig first. And let's create more sockets. So we're going to go to the skeleton. So this guy will also have a socket. 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 And this guy will also have a socket. So 6 sockets right now. We go back to the blueprint. We can make this thing thinner. We can make it bigger. It's up to you. Doesn't matter. I think this one is fine. So I'm going to duplicate this guy. And then this particle system 1, the socket is going to be right. They add 2 of this. Right A socket. There we go. That's it. And then we're going to, let's make them thinner actually. Let's do 0.25. Because I don't want there to be that much gas. Same for this one. Let's do 0.25. There we go. Actually, don't think we need all of the other ones because there's going to be enough like clouds going around. Let's duplicate this guy again. This one's going to go to socket B. Duplicate this guy again. This one's going to go to socket B on the right. There we go. Now, we can, of course, go to the particles and change how the particles behave, but I think this is fine. Now, the problem is, one of the problems is that all of these particle systems are on by default, which is this thing called auto-activate. I'm going to disable that, hit compile. And what I want to happen is I want the animation to, when the animation starts, I want the gas to turn on, and then when the animation ends, I want the gas to turn off. Can we do that? Oh, of course we can do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is on event begin play, I'm going to create something called an array. So I'm going to select this guys right here. Let's move them over here, and we can promote to a variable. And then this variable is going to be an array. An array is a group of variables. So let's plug that. Oh, there we go. So what's going to happen is when the game starts, all of these 4 particles systems are going to create an array, a group of, it's a variable that holds all 4 of them. And this array is going to be called, let's call it smoke. So over here, we'll call this smoke. There we go. Now, why is this smoke important? Because we don't want to be telling each one of them to turn on and off like one by one. We want to optimize things. And this is where, again, arrays are really useful. Because what can happen here is when it detects that this thing is going to happen, I can do something called a sequence of events. So the first event that's going to happen is, of course, the animation right here. And then the second event that's going to happen is the play of that smoke particle. So I'm going to bring the array. And what I'm going to say is for each loop, which means for each element of the array, what I'm going to do is I am going to grab the element and I'm going to play or activate. Activate. There we go. So we're going to reset that just to make sure it starts at 0, and we're going to activate the particles. And then at the end of this, when the play animation of the idle starts, I'm again going to go to the array, get smoke, for each loop, so for each element of that array, what I want to do is I want to stop or deactivate. And that's it. Okay? So technically, if my code is working properly here, if my visual scripting is working properly here, what should happen is when the character goes in, the animation starts, it starts creating all of the puffs of gas, and when it ends the puffs of gas, the particles will deactivate and we won't see any more gas. So if we take a look, you can see that the little guys there are just minding their own business. We go there, and boom, we get this. Now, the only problem is, yes, the gas starts and stops. You can see that there's no more gas anymore. But the problem is the gas starts immediately when the animation starts. And I don't want that. I want the gas to start at a specific point in the animation. So we're going to have to add a delay, which means that we're going to have to take a look at the animation, the attack animation, and figure out when we want it. So it's on frame 35, which is 1.5 seconds, as you can see right there. This is the time. So at 1.5 seconds, is when we want the gas to start like appearing. So what we're gonna do here is for each loop, we are, or before this thing starts, we're just gonna do a delay of 1.566. Again, there's more optimal ways to do this. This is not the best way, but it should give you a nice result. And now if we hit play, the animation starts, and then it activates the whole thing. It's a little bit fast, I would say. Like the activation is a little bit fast, which is a little bit weird. Usually it activates like a lot slower. Let's get rid of the reset. We don't want to reset it. Let's see if that helps. It's a little bit fast. And I'm not sure if it's the scale. Since they're attached to the sockets, I'm not sure if it's the scale of the socket that's creating that sort of stuff. Now, another thing we could do is we could go back here, remove the socket option. So if we go to the particles, we remove the sockets. So they're not attached to the sockets. They're still parented to the fogling, and they should still hold a very similar position. Or maybe not. Let's grab all of them and let's activate them to see where they are. So I'm gonna auto activate. There we go. No, okay, so they're down there. It's fine. So we'll just position them close to where I would expect them to be. So for instance, that one goes there, that one goes there, that one goes back there, and this one goes there. So now they're parented. So again, if the fogling moves, the gas should move. And you can tell by going here, when the fogling is moving a little bit, that looks a little bit more natural, I think. Well, let's take a look at the animation. Yeah, unfortunately, the animation doesn't look as good. Let's see the activation. Let's see how the activation looks. I think it looks a little bit better. I think one of the things that might be a problem is the particle itself. I'm going to show you how to modify this. So I'm going to reactivate this, and we're going to go to the particle. I'm not a particle guy, so this is going to be a little bit difficult, but you can see here, usually the spawn or the initial velocity here. There we go. So as you can see, the initial velocity is pushing this to the Y section and to the Z section. I'm going to really crank this up to something like 100. And this should push it maybe like 200. This should push it up, as you can see right there. Save. And that should push the animation up a little bit more. We can even go like faster. Let's try 500. Save. There we go. So now it looks like it's smoking, right? Like the puffling is smoking. So let's see how that looks on the animation. Start the animation, then poof. Okay, I think that might look a little bit better. I'm gonna go back to the system. So I'm gonna bring the locations back to 0. Location of the particle systems, and we're just gonna reparent them to the sockets. So this one goes to top A. This one goes to right A. This one goes to bent B. This one goes to bent B. There we go. So now they're parented to the sockets again. You can see that they're pushing on the direction of the joint, which is interesting. It's interesting. Let's check the activation effect now. Now, one thing we could do here is, since we don't want this thing to be as intense on the event graph, we could be like, hey, you know what? Like, start producing this like at 1 second, right? Like, let's just play around with the timing there and see how this looks. Okay, it was a little better. Kind of looks a little bit better. But I can definitely see that they are inheriting some like scale from the whole thing. Which again, quite interesting. I didn't know that was going to happen, to be honest. Let's bring this to 1.2. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. Let's try something. Let's try going to the particle systems and let's try changing them to the smoke. And let's see if that makes a big difference. Because this is one of the problems. We're using some of the assets that we already have available here. So that makes it a little bit complicated to make sure it works in the best possible way. Because we're not really controlling it. Okay, there you go. The smoke looks way better. Because the smoke does seem to have some sort of like initial size or something. Okay, I like the smoke way, way better. Now I'm going to go to all of this, guys, and we definitely need a bigger scale. So let's keep it at 1. Let's compile. There we go. That's a lot better. That's interesting that each time we go there, it's going to increase the size of the smoke. Like a multiply. Okay, well, not bad. Not ideal, but not bad, right? It's a fun thing right here. So this is where, again, the tweaking will definitely require more time. We will need to tweak how to make this thing work, but this is where my expertise ends. This is where the project ends, because this is where the programmers and all of the game designers will go take my asset and they would use it, the animations and everything, to make it feel or fit the narrative a little bit better. Let me see how we can change that, because it does seem a little bit weird that it's there we go. So let's auto manage. Let's keep world on, or keep relative on the location, or actually keep relative. Let's keep world everywhere, actually. Keep world and keep world. Let's see if that changes something. Because, yeah, I was inheriting things from the other elements. Nope. Let's keep relative the location. Let's keep relative the rotation. But let's keep world the scale. That's a lot better. I like that a lot better. It's a little bit closer to what I was expecting. Still a little bit concerned about that like thing and the the scale of the elements. Well, they do go back to the basic one. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. As you can see, our little like fogling here is working relatively nicely. I kind of like how this is working. So this is the end. We've reached the end of how to create a production ready 3D asset. Again, I want you guys to focus a little bit more on the production side of things, the sculpting, the UVs, the texturing, the modeling. That's my expertise. That's my main specialty. Here, particles, animations, and calibrating everything. I'm not too familiar with this, to be honest. But you can see we don't get like a bad result. Definitely things to polish and things that we can change, but it's not that bad, I would say. Let me see if there's like another like scale option. Snap to target. Let's see how that does, because it's the scale. At the end of the day, it's the scale that's changing how this is looking. It's not the... No, it does that weird dance as well. Well, anyway, so yeah, I hope you guys like this whole series. We still have one more, well, not more videos for this one. I still have a special video for you guys for tomorrow. If you are traveling for Christmas, be very safe, please. We know that in these times, getting sick from a lot of different respiratory diseases is quite common. So I hope you guys can avoid any of those things. Stay safe. Make sure to spend the time with your family if you're celebrating Christmas. I am going to be taking a couple of days off for the next couple of days because I'm going to be spending the time with my family. But I'll be back next week for the final week of the year before we kick in with 2023. Again, thanks a lot for your patience. Thanks a lot for your support. This, I think, has been a great series to close the year. We're still gonna have a couple more videos next week, but this is like the last big series, and I'm really happy with the result that we were able to get here with the smoke links. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Please leave a like, share, subscribe, use the promo code. That helps us a lot if you want to get any of our courses, and I'll see you back on the next video. Bye bye.